Welcome to Daily with Doc and Becca. This program is for educational purposes only. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences of the individual sharing their testimony. Results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have the founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health, Dr. Joel Wallach. Welcome to Daily with Doc and Becca. This program is for educational purposes only. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences of the individual sharing their testimony. Results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have the founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health, Dr. Joel Wallach.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Daily with Doc. My name is Becca Dukes, and as the hostess of this program, I am excited that it's Friday. Let's go ahead and let people in from the waiting room, as this is a live event, and we do have a live audience. So if you would like to be part of that audience, we are here Monday through Friday from 12 to 1 p.m. Pacific time by going to zoom.dailywithdoc.com. Now, this program is being sponsored by dailywithdoc.com, and on our website, we have more empowering information to add to your toolbox that gives knowledge, allowing you to be more of an authority on your own health. Now, this includes things that you can do within your diet, within lifestyle, that it's going to be beneficial. Things, removing toxins is a big thing, okay? We've even got some information about that as well. And we have a good foods, bad foods list on the website. Now, this program is sponsored by the Daily with Doc team. But if you were invited by somebody specific, we want to make sure that you get back with them. Tell them thank you for sharing this show with you. Subscribe and follow us, depending on what platform you are watching on, as we are on approximately 25, if I counted right, different platforms, including Audible, Amazon TV, and Amazon Music, Rumble, oh my goodness, Instagram. X is what I was thinking about, but I kept thinking Twitter. Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, Brighteon, we were on almost everything, including iHeartRadio and Castbox. So folks, thank you so much for joining us here. And as you're listening, and anytime you think about somebody that comes to mind, make sure that you share this program with them. That's why we do this. We want to make sure that people have information that's empowering. There's too many things out there that are taking our power away from us or giving information that is more harmful than good. And we are here to give more information to you as an individual in this journey we call life. Now, today is Pharmacist Fridays on Daily with Doc, and we are honored to have an amazing pharmacist who has been practicing nutrition and recommending nutrition for decades, which is one reason why he may have got dismissed from one of his pharmaceutical positions that then got him into even greater, bigger, and better things. It is my honor and privilege to bring to the screen with me pharmacist Ben Fuchs. Pharmacist Ben, you know, Pharmacist Ben Bites last night was pretty awesome.
Was it good?
And now yes, and we have you here again with us today. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the awesome job you and Ruth Ellen and AJ and Marilyn and Phyllis and Albert and all our listeners and Doc, of course, do every day to help make the world a better place. Thank you so much.
Well, and we appreciate, because I know that you do more than this, but you definitely give plenty of time to us to help us spread this message and be part of the solution that we are trying to provide.
Well, longevity is my family, and longevity gives me a platform. And actually, that's a really important point for folks who have something to say. Longevity gives you a platform to say it on. And if it's something that's helpful, you're going to make a difference in a lot of folks' lives. If you're out there and you have something important to say about people's health, you want to be part of the longevity family. Longevity gives you a megaphone to help spread the word. That's one of the main reasons I love longevity. That's why I've been involved with longevity for so long, because I've got something to say, and longevity allows me to say it and helps me say it. So thank you, Doc. Thank you, longevity. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, everybody who makes this possible. And let's let her rip for the next hour. I got to be done right at 2, though, or whatever time you're on.
So we got a hard stop, which Pharmacist Ben, back in May, we did a segment on histamines. We had a little bit of technical issues. So we've had a lot of questions coming in through the coaches community with the Institute of Holistic Health about histamines.
Yes.
So let's go through.
Yeah, it's a very interesting, very important subject, and very misunderstood. And based on the questions that I saw that you asked, there's a lot of misunderstandings around this thing. So let's nail it down here. What you want to ask the questions, or you just want me to talk about histamine in general?
Well, let's start off with talking about histamine in general, because you may just be answering those questions and putting it into a flow like you always do.
Okay, I hope I can flow. I hope I do. Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, all right. So histamine is, everybody's heard of histamine probably because they've heard of antihistamines. And antihistamines, as you know, you have hay fever, or you have a rash or an itch or some kind of inflammation, you take an antihistamine. And that, the antihistamine, the fact that we take antihistamines when we have certain conditions tells you what histamine does. Histamine revs things up. It's an inflammatory molecule, a very important molecule in the immune system. It's made from an amino acid called histidine, which is a very important amino acid. And as an aside, if you have eczema or you have a skin condition, histidine can be used for as an anti-inflammatory for the skin, and also for as a way to improve improve the overall health of the skin. Histidine is an amino acid that's found pretty much in all high protein foods. Histamine in the body is stored in one of the most important of the immune cells, which are a cell called the mast cells. And if you're in pharmacy, if you have an allergic reaction or you have an inflammatory condition, you may have heard of mast cell inhibitors. Mast cell inhibitors are a type of drug that are used to treat immune reactions, particularly asthma. And if anybody out there has asthma, they should know that it is an immune system condition, which means it's a defensive response. Generally speaking, immune reactions are defensive responses. So whenever you have an immune reaction, you want to end it, the appropriate strategy is to figure out what is triggering the offensive response. What is the defensive response? What is the offending agent? Bacteria in the gut bacteria produce histamine, which is an important point, which we'll talk about here in a second. Mast cells located in the intestine produce histamine. Again, we'll talk about that here momentarily. And mast cells that are scattered throughout the body, including the blood and in the connective tissue, also produce histamine. Those are the main sources of histamine: gut bacteria and the cells of the immune system, the mast cells. In order to understand the impact of histamine, you got to understand something called load. I call load the straw that breaks the camel's back phenomena. Load is when you can take so many straws on the back, the camel can take so many straws in the back, and all of a sudden the camel's back breaks. That's kind of how the immune system works. You can think of the immune system as a camel's back, and you could put an immune activator on the camel's back, on the immune system, that is, or the camel's back in our analogy, nothing happens, you're good. A second immune activator goes on the camel's back, your body handles it, you don't notice it, and a third immune activator goes on the camel's back, and boom, the camel's back breaks. And that's called immune load. In other words, you can take a certain amount of histamine or a certain amount of immune assaults before you run into a problem with overproduction of histamine or too much of a histamine response. Now, this load phenomenon comes into play when certain foods that under ordinary circumstances would not be a problem become a problem because you are producing too much of this histamine. So I'll tell you a few of these histamine-containing foods and foods that also stimulate the release of histamine here in a moment. But for now, I want everybody to understand that for the most part, if your immune system is operating okay and you're not overloaded with immune activators, you shouldn't have a problem with histamine. It's only when the load or the straws on the camel's back become significant enough that extra straw from a type of food that you eat hits the camel's back or hits the immune system that you run into a histamine response. So there's histamine that's made in the body, and there's histamine that comes from food. The food histamine should not be a problem unless your immune system is overloaded. Does that make sense, Rebecca?
That does absolutely make sense.
Okay. So under ordinary circumstances, there's an enzyme. There's a couple enzymes, but one main enzyme called DAO, diamine oxidase, which breaks down histamine. And there are foods that will impair DAO activity. So if you're dealing with an overloaded immune system and you eat a food that impairs DAO activity, again, you may run into a histamine response, which you wouldn't ordinarily have if you didn't have the immune load. Fortunately, there's also antihistamines that are found in food. And in addition to antihistamines that are drugs, which many drugs have antihistaminic effects because histamine has a global or systemic effects on the body, including in the brain, and schizophrenia and psychoses are thought to be related to histamine, and many antipsychotics are antihistaminic in nature. Antihistamines are also taken if you have a cold or you have an allergy, Zyrtec and Benadryl. You can also, if you don't want to go the drug route, you can use foods. Now, obviously, they won't be as potent, but they can contribute to antihistaminic response, to an antihistaminic effect. Histamine, by the way, levels naturally peak at night when your mast cells are most active. So if you do have a histamine response, you may notice that you have problems towards the evening or when you go to bed or even in the middle of the night. There's also a very important relationship between histamine and estrogen. Both histamine and estrogen rev things up. And so if you're dealing with an estrogenic health issue, such as endometriosis or fibromyalgia or dysmenorrhea, problems with your menstrual cycle, or autoimmune diseases which are related to estrogen, or depression or hypothyroidism, all of these are associated with elevated estrogen. And then you have a histamine issue, there's going to be some overlap. And digestive health issues in this way can contribute to some of the problems associated with estrogen, like autoimmune diseases, like fibromyalgia, like menstrual problems or reproductive problems or cysts or growths or PCOS. So there's an overlap between estrogen and histamine. Histamine can make estrogen problems worse.
I have a question.
Yes.
So most of the things that you mentioned primarily or more often affect women. Can men have an estrogen imbalance.
Yes, men can have an estrogen problem too, because men make estrogen also, but because women make significantly more estrogen, women are much more prone towards disease. Autoimmune diseases affect women much more, or women are much more likely to have autoimmune diseases. They're much more likely to be depressed. They're much more likely to have issues with hypothyroidism. In general, chronic degenerative diseases affect women more than men. And this is a clue to the immune activating and pro-inflammatory and generally rev you up effects of estrogen. Histamine does the same, is also a rev you up molecule. So histamine, if you have a histamine problem, that can make your estrogen problem worse. Or vice versa, if you have a histamine problem and you're dealing with problems metabolizing estrogen, your estrogen problems can make your histamine issues worse. Does that make sense? They're additive. They're both stimulating to the system. If you want to get try to understand the stimulating effects of histamine, think of Benadryl when you take it before you go to bed. By the way, histamine, Sominex is also an antihistamine. Have you heard of Sominex? It's a sleeping pill. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I used to take Sominex when I worked night shift.
Right, that's an antihistamine. So antihistamines have sleepy time effects. They make you drowsy, right? And that's why no drowsy antihistamines like Zyrtec have become so popular, but they still cause drowsiness because histamine revs things up. That's the big problem with histamine. And by the way, histamine levels can also be influenced by non-food sources like chemicals and additives found in cosmetics and beauty products, and chlorine in swimming pools or chlorine in the water or in toothpaste can contribute to histamine effects. Even nail polish remover, nail polish ingredients like toluene and formaldehyde, they can add to histamine effects. Synthetic fragrances and colors and perfumes can also elevate histamine levels. So it's not only food issues. And these are people who you may have heard of people who say, everything I put on my skin makes me break out, or I can't use any skincare products, or people will sometimes blame mold in their house. And what they're dealing with is a histamine issue. Histamine issues are behind long COVID, chronic Lyme disease, diseases that typically should resolve, or illnesses that should typically resolve that don't. A lot of times histamine is behind that. Of course, histamine from the gut, and that's where the whole digestive component, the first point in the triangle of disease, kicks in. Does that make sense, Rebecca? I can't really see you, so I can't see everybody, so I can't really tell. Does that make sense for you?
Yes, that does make sense. And
okay.
So when our digestive system is off, it could be because of histamine.
No, when your histamine is off, it could be because of your digestive system.
Okay, I want to make sure we get this
yes.
right.
A histamine response, or over an amplifying histamine effect, pretty much is a digestive health issue. If you don't have digestive health issues, first point in the triangle of disease, dysbiosis, leaky gut, more than likely you're not going to have a problem with histamine because your body handles it. It's a natural molecule. Your body shouldn't have a problem with histamine. You have enzymes that break up histamine naturally. Now, as I said earlier, there's certain things that block DAO. That's the enzyme that breaks down histamine. There's certain things that block DAO. Caffeine drinks, for example, can block DAO. Energy drinks in general can block DAO. Alcohol can block DAO. Wine sometimes can be a problem. So, and I've noticed, by the way, that a lot of people who have histamine issues also are drinking wine and eating cheese. Cheese is also a histamine-containing substance. So, under ordinary circumstances, you shouldn't have a histamine problem. If you do, more than likely you have a problem with histamine load that's coming from the amount of total histamine in the body that's either coming in through mast cells, through activation of the immune system, or through dysbiosis, that is messed up gut bacteria. It always boils down to the immune system, or to the intestine and the immune system, which lives in the intestine.
So you just mentioned the dysbiosis, messed up the gut bacteria.
You guys know what when I say dysbiosis, that's not, I don't want that to be a too weird a term for people, right? Dysbiosis means messed up, dys in biochemistry, dysfunction, dysglycemia. Dysbiosis means messed up. Biosis means life. Messed up, and that refers to bacteria. Dysbiosis means messed up microbiome, messed up gut bacteria. Go ahead, were you going to ask me something?
Yeah, so I have a couple clients that have specifically sought out one of our products because they can't find it anywhere else. That's the Flora FX, and it's because it has the glucono-delta
glucono-delta-lactone. Glucono-delta-lactone.
Glucono-delta-lactone, GDL. So does this help with
glucono-delta-lactone is not going to really have a histamine effect, but it's an antibacterial. So if you have dysbiosis associated with excess bacteria, glucono-delta-lactone may control the dysbiosis and secondarily have a beneficial effect on histamine.
So is that good bacteria, bad bacteria, or both?
No, glucono-delta-lactone is an antibacterial. It'll pretty much kill everything, but the bad bacteria are going to be more susceptible. You don't want to use glucono-delta-lactone for dysbiosis.
Okay, just double checking.
I'm not sure if that's what you're asking me, but if that's what you're asking.
I was just wondering. Yeah, I was just wondering if this has something to do with being able to control histamine.
No. The best way to control histamine is work on your digestive health. Always. And I know I say it all the time, but it's just so important. Work on digestive health. You want to do one thing for your body, work on digestive health. I-26 is probably your best bet if you're dealing with dysbiosis. I don't know if I told AJ this yesterday. I met the guy who brought I-26 to longevity. I thought that was really cool, and I got to thank him because it is an incredible product, as Doc knows. It's one of his favorites too for any kind of digestive health issue or secondary issue associated with digestive health. Yes.
So I would like to have him on our show to share more about I-26.
He's more of a businessman. He's not really he's not a healthcare professional, but there's a physician, Winkler. Dr. Winkle. Is it Winkle? Winkle. Yeah, Dr. Winkle. Yeah. He's a I-26 guru. He's a maven of I-26. So yeah, he'd be the right guy to talk to.
I'm working on it.
Okay, so continuing on with histamine, there are natural antihistamines, as I say, in food. Flavonoids, in particular, and the new Rise and Restore product are very rich in these adaptogenic phytonutrients, which have antihistaminic properties. So that's one of the cool things about the new product. So food, one of the best places to control histamine, in addition to working on your intestinal health, is going to be via foods. And there are antihistamine vegetables. Artichoke has antihistamine properties. Beets have antihistaminic properties. Cabbage, cruciferous vegetables in general. The cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower. These have antihistaminic properties. Watercress has antihistaminic properties. Apples can be antihistaminic. Berries can be antihistaminic as well. Manuka honey, I don't know if you've heard of all the stuff about Manuka honey. It's been in the news lately. That has some antihistaminic effects. Algae have some antihistaminic effects as well. Then, of course, there are foods that are high in histamine. These are things that you want to be careful of. Fermented foods can be histaminic, and that's things like yogurt. And sometimes you'll have people who react to fermented foods. You'll hear that they are having problems with fermented foods. Those are very likely related to histamine. Things like sauerkraut, vinegar, yogurt, pickles. These things can be related to histamine. Remember, histamine is made by bacteria. So these fermented foods having being bacterial rich can be sources of histamine. Aged cheese is one of the most notorious sources of histamine. As I said earlier, wine and cheese are a great way to amp up your histamine. And if you're already dealing with digestive problems, plus you're in menopause, and for some reason, all my menopausal friends love wine and cheese. And they're always complaining of hot flashes and night sweats. Ladies, what is with the wine and cheese? Oh my gosh. For some reason, menopausal women love wine and cheese. I have yet to meet a friend, a menopausal woman who's my friend who doesn't love their wine and cheese. Becca, what's up with wine and cheese and women?
I don't know. I've never been a real big wine person. I love cheese though.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, cheese is a source of histamine. It's an interesting source of histamine foods are leftovers. Leftovers that you leave in the refrigerator as they're aging. Anything that's aging will tend to be higher in histamine. That's why things like smoked fish and and cheese are high in histamine, but also if you leave tuna, and tuna can be a high histamine food. In fact, smoked fish of all kinds can be high in histamine. If you leave your tuna in the fridge, it becomes higher in histamine the next day. And that's kind of an interesting thing. You may not think you have a problem, and the next day you'll have a problem because there's more histamine in the food as it's aging in your refrigerator. So leftovers are sources of, tend to be higher in histamine. Yes, ma'am, were you going to say something?
Well, so I'm thinking like tuna fish salad.
Yeah, tuna salad, exactly, that you leave in the fridge. Tuna fish in general, seafood in general can be histaminic, but as you age it, and mayonnaise too for that matter, if you're using mayonnaise in your tuna fish. And you can get these lists of high histamine foods and low histamine foods on the internet. They're very abundant. These people are becoming more and more aware of histamine. Eggplant, spinach, tomatoes, these are high histaminic foods. Sour milk, buttermilk, anything sour, anything that's soured or aged. Kombucha, a lot of people doing kombucha. Champagne, beer, wine, and things that get aged and fermented, that they tend to accumulate histamine, which is made in bacteria. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, does that apply to most or all fermented foods and drinks?
All fermented foods and drinks can be sources of histamine, yes. And as I said earlier, you shouldn't have a problem with histamine. But if you do drink wine and you notice your symptoms get worse, you get tired, you get rashes, and was that you telling me about your friend who could write her name on her skin? Was that you telling me the other day? Somebody told me about that. That's a condition called dermographia. Dermographia is a condition where you can write your name on your skin, like with your fingernail, and you'll have a raised bump in the form of your name, of your signature. That's called dermographia. It's a classic sign of a histamine response. And then there are also foods that stimulate the release of histamine from the body. This is where shellfish come in. A lot of people who think they have shellfish allergies are really reacting to histamine, which is stimulated by shellfish. Not everybody, but some people. Artificial preservatives, as I said earlier, artificial dyes, they can be histamine releasers. Nuts can be histamine releasers. Chocolate can be a histamine releaser. And again, these are a list that you could find on the internet pretty readily. Foods that either are histamine-releasing foods or foods that are high in natural histamine. Dried fruits also, figs, raisins, that kind of thing, and also smoked meats. And by the way, not smoked meats, but preserved meats and smoked meats too. But smoked meats and preserved meats. One of the worst things a human being could ever ingest is deli meats for so many reasons. But the histamine is just one part of it. But the nitrates and the processing and a lot of these beef foods and deli meats, they call them, are highly processed. Some of these meats are actually dissolved into a mush. They're actually melted. They throw all the parts of the cow or the animal that you would never eat, and they put them into a pot and they melt everything and it turns into a mush and they extrude it. Really disgusting how they make it, and it's horrible, horrible foods. And it's one of the reasons why colon cancers are increasing so dramatically. These nitrates in food are also rev you up molecules. And generally speaking, this is what we're talking about here. We're talking about if you want to simplify, you've got two major movements in the body. One is quieting things down, and the other is amping things up, right? And you need to have some amping up. That's how you get up out of bed in the morning. But generally speaking, it's the calming things down that you want to look for in things that rev you up, like nitrates, like estrogen, like histamine, like immune activating molecules from that are stimulated through offending agents. These are all rev you up things. This is where you run into problems. Cancer is a classic example of a rev you up problem. Cancer is a classic example of a system that's really, really revved up. Histamine is associated with increased rates of cancer. It will amp up cellular activity, and that's one of the reasons why these molecules like histamine are so problematic. And estrogen, they are rev you up molecules. The body wants to be in a stand down position as much as possible. AJ and I were talking yesterday on our video about longevity, and we were talking about how the longest lived animals are the ones with the slowest metabolisms. Elephants and sharks and tortoises and alligators and reptiles in general are slow. Look how a tortoise moves, slow. The animals that have shortest lifespan are like mice and rodents and fruit flies, and they're really moving very, very fast. So moving fast is anti-longevity. which is why calming things down is very, very important. It's just a general you can think of that as a general metaphor. Anything that calms the body down is going to have a longevity-inducing and health-promoting effect. That's why slow, deep breathing is so beneficial. That's why fasting is so beneficial. That's why meditation is so beneficial. That's why warm water and warm baths are so beneficial, and body work and massage. Calming things down. Even depression, which seems like it would be a rev you up kind of the end result of too much slowing down, is really the end result of the system being revved up. So pretty much all of our health issues are the end result of being overamped. High metabolism. Today, there's a problem people are talking about involving the organelle of the body that 10, 15, 20 years ago, nobody even heard of unless you were a biochemist or a biologist. There's little tiny structures inside cells that are the structures that are responsible for turning your food into energy. How that happens is another miracle, but these little structures, organelles, they're not organs, they're organelles because they're the organs of the cell. An organ is an organ of the body, but an organelle is an organ in the cell. And it's analogous to things in the body. We have a little organelle in the cell that turns food into energy. Specifically, it turns the electrons from food or the energy from food into energy. These little structures are called mitochondria, right? Everybody's heard of mitochondria probably on this call. 20 years ago, not so much. And now you have people who understand just a teeny little bit about nutrition. And you got to be careful about these people who understand a teeny little bit about nutrition, talking about their pills and their supplements. They'll tell you, oh, this is mitochondrial support, or this will help you with your mitochondria, right? Have you heard this? The mitochondria don't need our help. The mitochondria need to be abused less. Mitochondria are the reason we have mitochondrial problems, and we do have, many people have mitochondrial problems, and these show up as fatigue or as any kind of cellular health issue, is because our mitochondria are frying out because we're all getting too much energy. It's like we're trying to get energy, the amount of energy we have coming into our body compared to how much energy our body wants or our cells want is like trying to drink water out of a fire hose. We're flooding our body with energy. And how do you suppose we're flooding our body with energy? Through sugar and processed food and calories and overeating. And that's really the problem. It's not that we need to be supported as much as we need to be controlled. We're doing things that rev our body up is the point I want to make. And this is one of the reasons why fasting can be so helpful. So what do you do if you have a histamine problem? Well, first of all, there are natural antihistamine. First of all, you want to eat less. That's the first thing you want to do. The second thing you want to do is you want to correct intestinal problems. It's probably the most important thing you can do. And remember, there's an overlap between estrogen and histamine, so balancing out estrogen is important. You can balance out estrogen with progesterone, with our Zero Fem. That's a great supplement for helping balance out estrogen. Good nutrition will generally balance out estrogen as well. Ultimate EFAs will help balance out estrogen. Ultimate Selenium has an estrogen balancing effect. So one thing you could do is balance out your estrogen, correct dysbiosis, patch up a leaky gut. There are also, and of course, avoiding high histamine foods or histamine-releasing foods. And then there are also natural antihistamine histamine nutrients that you can use. Zinc has antihistaminic properties. Vitamin C has antihistaminic properties. In fact, vitamin C and quercetin are two of the most powerful antihistamines. You'll find those in the Beyond Tangy Tangerine. Quercetin is part of and these days a lot of people have heard of quercetin because quercetin was a part of the COVID protocol. So when people had COVID, they were using quercetin. The reason is because quercetin has antihistaminic effects and it calms the body down. COVID and bacterial infections and viral infections and even probably parasitic infections involve defensive responses, of which include histamine. One of my favorite natural antihistamines, I'll give you a clue. Antihistamines give you relax you, right? Benadryl has a relaxing effect or even a sleepy time effect. Antipsychotic meds, as anybody who's taken Seroquel or other antipsychotic medication know, they knock you out. What do you think a natural molecule is that's well known for calming you down? In fact, if you want to go to sleep at night, you may take this great longevity product, one of the best. It's rapidly becoming my favorite longevity product. This stuff is amazing. What is that? Came out this summer?
Is it the sleep gummies?
Yes, the sleep gummies. The sleep gummies are antihistaminic. And I tell you guys, if you haven't tried those sleep gummies, I mean, they're incredible. They really are incredible. Mind-blowing. And like I say, fast becoming one of my favorites. Certainly, I don't say the most effective, but among the most effective of the longevity products was the sleep gummies. There's natural melatonin in there from plants. Plants have melatonin in them, as well as I think there's pretty much I think there's regular melatonin in there as well. Melatonin is also antihistaminic. Another really cool antihistamine is found in eggs. And one of the most important ingredients in eggs, one of the reasons why eggs are considered to be a brain food, also found in seafood, also found in grains, also found in our ultimate enzymes. And that's something called choline, C-H-O-L-I-N-E. So our ultimate enzymes, which I'm always talking about as being multifunctional, are antihistaminic by virtue of their choline content. And choline is also wonderful for the brain and for the nerves. Were you going to say something?
Well, yeah, but going back to things revving up the body, Jill is wanting to know about coffee.
Okay, well, let me get to that here in a second about coffee. And yes, okay. Coffee and caffeine are definitely foods that can, if not give you histaminic effects, they can mimic some of the effects of histamine. Anything with caffeine, that includes chocolate too, by the way. Let's see, quercetin I talked about. Progesterone, which balances out estrogen, also has a natural antihistamine. You want to hear another great natural antihistamine? Remember, antihistamines have a relaxing effect. So if something has a relaxing effect, you can, it's going to tend, you can think of it kind of like an antihistamine. There's one substance that used to be illegal, and now it's legal in some states, and that has antihistaminic properties. And sometimes people, when they use this system, will get dry mouth. Dry mouth is a sign of an antihistamine. That's why sometimes people get dry mouth when they take Benadryl. You ever hear cotton mouth?
Oh, yeah.
That's what we used to call it back when I was a kid. Cannabinoids. Cannabinoids are antihistaminic. Your Hemp FX, for you guys who are worried about a histamine effect, get on the Hemp FX products. Histamine is also associated with pain and chronic pain because of its inflammatory effects. So you take your Hemp FX for chronic pain or for joint pain or for peripheral neuropathies, you're going to get antihistaminic benefits. There's another molecule that's found in our wonderful ultimate ultimate enzymes, which has a calming effect, and that's called betaine. And we don't talk anywhere near, in my opinion, anywhere near enough about betaine, B-E-T-A-I-N-E, which is a form of hydrochloric acid, the acidifying compound that's in the ultimate enzymes. But betaine is an amazing multifunctional substance. In addition to being antihistaminic, betaine is a methylating agent. So for people who have MTHFR problems, which, I don't tend to make a big deal about MTHFR issues, but we do hear from people who say, oh, I have this MTHFR, methylation issue, which we've talked about in the past. Well, it turns out your ultimate enzymes, by virtue of their betaine content, can help with methylation issues. CoQ10 is a natural antihistamine. And one of my favorite natural antihistamines, I have some of it right here. I don't know if you can see it, is a fatty molecule, which is similar to the cannabinoids, called PEA. PEA stands for palmitoyl ethanolamide. PEA you can just think of. And PEA is a well-known pain-relieving anti-inflammatory substance. It comes from fats. It's one of those short fats. Remember, we've talked about those short fats as being part of the anti-inflammatory and inflammatory system. Well, PEA is also a wonderful natural antihistamine. So there's lots of strategies you have for dealing with histamine. You can also, as I said, use fruits and vegetables. Flavonoids tend to be antihistaminic. And if you're wondering where to find flavonoids, our new Rise and Restore, great places to find flavonoids, generally called adaptogens. Also herbs, garlic, rosemary, oregano, lemon. These can be beneficial. And then, as I said earlier, the cruciferous vegetables can be beneficial. You can also get straight DAO supplements if you want. That can also help you as well. And then to answer those questions, somebody asked about collagen and histamine. Based on everything I just said, that's not a thing. There's no histamine in collagen, based on what I just told you about. Histamine is an immune activating molecule that the body makes via bacteria, that mast cells make, immune cells make. It's a natural molecule found in the body. And then And then histamine is also made by cells that are found throughout the body in the respiratory tract, particularly, and also in the eyes, which are the parts of the body that are affected by hay fever. There's one more thing I was going to say, and I totally forgot what that was, but maybe it'll come to me.
Could you go more into asthma?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember what I was going to say, and it's related to asthma. When I was a few years ago, maybe 10 years ago, maybe 10, 11 years ago, in my pharmacy in Boulder, there was a condition that women were suffering from called PID. Have you heard of PID? Pelvic inflammatory disease. So you have terrible pain in your pelvis. And nobody could figure out what this pelvic inflammatory disease was related to, but it would happen to some women. And I used to make a product, a topical product for women to use in that area that was called Cromolyn, Cromolyn, which I mentioned earlier. Cromolyn is a well-known mast cell inhibitor. Remember, histamine's made in mast cells, and by quieting the mast cells, you can reduce histamine. So this Cromolyn was used as a mast cell inhibitor for folks who have pelvic inflammatory disease. It's also used for asthma patients. The same kind of biochemistry that causes PID, pelvic inflammatory disease, causes respiratory problems when you have asthma. In other words, mast cell activation. So mast cell suppression is a strategy, a pharmacological strategy for reducing histamine and thereby reducing the effects of pelvic inflammatory disease as well as asthma, right? So what we should have done, and I didn't know this back in the day when I was doing this, is tell people to get off of wheat. And it turns out that gluten was one of the main causes of pelvic inflammatory disease because gluten is a mast cell activator for some folks. Same with asthma. Asthma needs to be regarded as an immune problem, a defensive problem. When you have a defensive problem, you have an offending agent. Unless you're injecting into the blood, the offending agent is going to be food. Unless you're injecting into the blood, this is so important for people who have asthma and eczema for that matter, which is like asthma on the outside. When you have these kinds of immune problems, you want to think about food. Doctors won't tell you this. They're going to give you immune suppressants. The pharmacological medical strategy for dealing with these immune activating problems, whether it's autoimmune diseases or whether it's eczema or whether it's pelvic inflammatory disease or whether it's asthma, is to shoot down the immune system. The vast majority of drugs that you see advertised on TV, if you watch TV and any amount of TV over the last few months or years, even really over the last few years, you see commercial after commercial after commercial after commercial. Every commercial break is at least half, usually more, drugs called pharmacological agents that suppress the immune system. They're called biologics. Jardiance and Dupixent and Stelara, and they all have these weird names associated with them. And you see them endlessly. That one commercial where that lady is singing her song, the Broadway musical that they do for, I forgot what I think it's Jardiance, the drug. Oh my God. And the mailman comes in and he joins in singing the song. And holy cow, is that the most nauseating thing you've ever seen in your life? That is a drug like the others, Stelara and Dupixent. I can see clearly now, they've got all the songs and they're singing and they're all happy and they're dancing because they're on their medication. Nobody's ever sick on those commercials. They're all singing and dancing and they can't get enough of life because they're on their Dupixent. These drugs are called biologics, and they want you to think that they're natural biologics. They're not natural biologics. They're as Frankenstein monster drugs as you can imagine. They're genetically modified drugs that shoot down the immune system. The immune system works by chemicals called antibodies. These antibodies are responsible for all the effects, the good effects of the immune system. The antibodies kill the bad guys, but they're also responsible for the bad effects, the inflammation. So the drug companies have come up with a strategy for taking care of the inflammation by shooting down the antibodies. They actually shoot down the antibodies with other antibodies. They use antibodies to kill your antibodies, or actually not your antibodies, but the chemicals made by your antibodies. They call them biologics. And they are, the reason you see commercials all the time for them, because they're so ridiculously expensive. They can cost you $10,000 a month to be on these drugs, and most people don't pay that. The insurance company pays for that. But of course, we all pay for that if the insurance company is paying for it. And the reason you see these commercials all the time is because the profit margins are ungodly. These drugs cost pennies, and they sell for $10,000. Can you imagine have something that costs a couple pennies and you sell for $10,000 and you sell to millions of people? Can you see how much money is made in these things? That's why you see these commercials over and over and over again for them. So most of these drugs can be duplicated by, or the effects of most of these drugs can be duplicated in a non-toxic way by not activating the immune system. If you have asthma, you have an an activated immune system. You don't want the asthma, don't activate the immune system. It's as simple as that. It sounds ridiculously simple, but it is. But we don't, we like to think. We overthink. We have overthinkitis. And so we think, oh, I can't do that. I've got asthma. I can't breathe. I have a friend of mine, super smart guy. He just got out of the hospital a few months ago because he had asthma so bad, he couldn't control it wasn't being controlled. And I couldn't tell him it's his digestive system and his food because nobody wants to hear it. And I'm not sure why. I am not sure why that is. Somebody help me understand why. If I had an immune problem, I would be laying off of foods that activated my immune system immediately. But for some reason, it doesn't compute to work on foods by eliminating foods that activate the immune system and working on dysbiosis and intestinal health with your ultimate microbiome and your nightly essence and your ultimate enzymes and, of course, your I-26. So for asthma, immune problem. Immune problem, go to the digestive system. For immune problems, go to the digestive system. And I want to say this last thing, then we'll take questions here. Not because Ben says so, or Dr. Wallach says so, or Rebecca says so, but because it's just logical. It's not an assertion. I'm not some kind of food guru. I'm just working backwards, troubleshooting. Your immune system lives in your intestine. So if you have an immune problem, you got an intestinal problem. The intestine is where the outside world meets the inside world. The enemy is the outside world, not the inside world. So if you have an enemy, it's coming in from the outside. It's either food or injection. And last thing, be careful what you inject into the skin. Yesterday or last week, AJ and I talked about fats and the sneaky places inflammatory fats are put into consumer goods that we interact with. Well, one of the sneaky places where inflammatory fats are found is Ensure and formula, baby formula. Those are sneaky ways that we get inflammatory fats. Another really sneaky place where inflammatory fats get into the system is in injections. And I'm not going to say the word because we'll get cut off of YouTube if I say the word, but it starts with a V. The V, they don't, everybody worries about the poison, the antigen that's in the V, but nobody talks about the fact that the V's contain inflammatory fats, especially the latest V that was not even tested before it was foisted on humanity. It's a source of very powerful inflammatory oxidative fats. And just like fats are part of the anti-inflammatory system, like palmitoyl, ethanolamide, PEA, and cannabinoids and vitamin E and essential fatty acids, like we talked about, as we've talked about, inflammatory fats are on the other side, and they will induce inflammation and induce diseases and immune diseases, particularly like asthma and other eczema and other immune activating illnesses. So I think that's covers histamine pretty much. Did I answer the questions that you get?
I think you unpacked it pretty well.
Okay. All right. So what's going on? Anybody else have a question? We've got a few minutes here.
Oh, yes, we have lots of questions. We've got 3 hands up plus a question about Lucy out on YouTube says, what about TMG, trimethylglycine?
Trimethylglycine is betaine. And I wasn't going to actually say what it was because I didn't want to be overwhelmed with chemistry. But yes, trimethyl means 3 methyls, trimethyl. Glycine. Glycine is an amino acid, one of the most underappreciated of all amino acids. Glycine is important for the production of connective tissue. Glycine is also a major detoxifying amino acid, very important part of the liver's detox system. Sticking glycine onto molecules makes those molecules easier for the body to eliminate. So glycination is one of the ways the detox system eliminates poisons. Many people are deficient in glycine. Glycine deficiency is a relatively common nutritional deficiency, which is ironic because it's found in a lot of foods, but it's especially found in connective tissue foods. It helps you build connective tissue, and it's found in connective tissue foods. And I know I said this before. Is Doc on the call, by the way?
He is on the call.
The Doc will verify this. Doc was the connective tissue doctor before he was the mineral doctor. And the first big product that got my attention from Doc's formulations was the Pig Pack. And the Pig Pack was connective tissue building substances. And this is, you know, when I've told this story before, so forgive me for repeating myself, but when I first heard Dead Doctors Don't Lie, that got my attention, man, because we learned about that in pharmacy school. Understanding the importance of using connective tissue to build connective tissue. Glycine is part of connective tissue. So when you eat your bone broth, or eat your gelatin, or eat your Pig Pack, or eat your organ meats, or eat your offal, they call it OFFAL, not AWFUL, but OFFAL, which are the parts nobody wants to eat, the intestine and the pig hooves and the oxtail. These are very rich sources of connective tissue building substances that contain glycine. And then trimethyl is 3 methyl groups. This is where the methylation benefits come from. You're actually getting methyls. So for people who complain about, oh, there's, you know, that's the wrong form of folate and that's the wrong form of B12. Just get your methyls from your trimethylglycine. Get your methyls from your betaine. Betaine is being trimethylglycine, which is in your ultimate enzymes. I'm always talking about how multifunctional the ultimate enzymes are for the blood and for inflammation and for pain, and of course for the digestive system, they're digestive enzymes. But the betaine itself, which is there to acidify the enzymes because the enzymes work in acid, it itself has benefits as trimethylglycine via methylation benefits and detoxification benefits and connective tissue building benefits. And a lot of times, you know, the paleo folks, people only eat meat. I heard a guy on YouTube the other day. I don't know if you know who Jordan Peterson is, and he talks about how, oh, he's doing paleo and all he's doing is eating steak 3 times a day. And there's some people just eat meat, and the paleo people say, oh, I'm only going to eat meat. By the way, paleo is a ridiculous diet, as important as meat is. What they're doing is they're eating steak, which is muscle meat or muscle tissue. The glycine is in the connective tissue. It's found in the oxtail and in the pig's hooves, not in the steak. So when they tell you about paleo, eating like our caveman ancestors didn't eat steak. They ate the whole animal. They ate everything. And so there's no paleo diet in the sense that nothing can duplicate what our caveman ancestors ate, because they weren't going to Safeway and getting a T-bone. They were eating the whole darn antelope, you know, and the antelope was grass-fed, and they were hunting, and they were crawling around in the grass, and they were pouncing on the antelope. You know, you don't pounce on your Big Mac or your filet mignon from Morton's. Maybe some people pounce. Maybe AJ pounces on his filet mignon. I don't know. So I'm just teasing.
Maybe Rebecca pounces on her steak.
Yeah. So there's no paleo. For people who talk about paleo, the implication is, oh, I'm going to eat like my caveman ancestors. No, your caveman ancestors didn't go to Safeway or McDonald's. So there's no paleo diet. That's a ridiculous way to eat for a lot of reasons, which we can get into some other time.
Okay. Well, we have lots of hands up, so let's go ahead and do some rapid fire on questions. Marilyn, what question do you have for Pharmacist Ben today?
Okay. Hello, Pharmacist Ben.
Hello.
Talking yesterday, and you talk a lot about increasing vitamin C.
Yes. Increasing intake of vitamin C.
Intake of vitamin C. I have a question though. What about the ratio of zinc and copper? If you take too much vitamin C, doesn't it affect zinc and copper?
No. Zinc and copper are a ratio. That is correct. Zinc the more zinc you take, the more you're going to excrete copper, and vice versa. Because in a lot of cities, especially in older cities like in New York or in the Midwest, the water is delivered in copper pipes. So a lot of people are throwing off their copper to zinc balance. Zinc is found in high protein foods, and because high protein foods tend to be expensive, a lot of people are deficient in zinc anyway. And then if you're getting copper through like copper pipes, you may further throw off your zinc copper ratio. And then copper deficiency is also common. So these two minerals tend to be deficient in the standard American diet, which is very unfortunate. Copper is involved in the production of stress chemicals, melanin, pigment, very important for the building of connective tissue, for wound healing. Zinc is arguably, it's hard to overstate how important zinc is, and deficiencies are quite common. especially around the world. Zinc deficiencies are one of the leading causes of mental retardation and cretinism, because zinc is very important for the developing brain. Moms to be, pregnant moms, moms who are building a baby should definitely be on extra zinc. Zinc is super important for the skin, important for the immune system, important for the heart, important for bones, important for the brain, important for the liver, important for sex, for the for semen and for conception. It's incredibly important, and zinc deficiencies are very common. Zinc, as I say, is found in high protein foods, but longevity products can. A lot of the most important longevity products, including Beyond Tangy Tangerine, contain zinc and copper. Doc's been talking about copper for a long time. I think that's one of Doc's favorites. Correct me
Well,
if I'm wrong.
you know, there's no association with depleting zinc or copper with vitamin C.
No, in fact, no. I don't know of any deficiency. Why would they say that? Did they say why?
Well, no, I've just heard that.
I don't know how that would work. I don't know how that would work. I would think, no, I don't know. Unless I'm missing something, I don't know how that works.
Would you say there's any type of maximum vitamin C intake per day?
Yeah, 1,000,000 grams a day. You probably don't want more than 1,000,000 grams. Actually, you could probably take 10 million grams. No, wait a minute. 10 trillion grams. No, it's non-toxic. It's completely non-toxic. They inject it into your blood. They inject grams of it right into your blood.
Yeah, I've seen vials. I've seen huge vials of it.
Yes, exactly. No, it's hard to express how simple a molecule it is to somebody who's not a biochemist, but it's just a tiny little molecule, very similar to sugar. The chemical structure is very, very similar to glucose. It's so basic and so fundamental. And as I was telling AJ yesterday, animals make their own vitamin C. Human beings are one of the few animals that don't make vitamin C. To most of the animal kingdom, vitamin C is a natural molecule, like histamine, or like like insulin, or like glucose. It's just a natural molecule that's in the body that the body makes.
Okay, one last question. Why does it produce heat when it's injected into the body, vitamin C?
Vitamin C won't cause any more heat than anything else will cause heat, but heat is usually
warm, because I've had it injected into me.
Heat is a sign that your body is responding to it.
Oh, I see.
Heat is always associated with blood flow. It's the blood that makes your body hot. And if you ever had a hot flash, you know it's associated with a sense of swelling and filling, a sense of fullness in the head, and that's associated with blood flow. So heat is a blood flow phenomenon. Vitamin C doesn't cause heat. It might cause increased blood flow. That could be. It might support circulation. It might be pro-circulation. Niacin does the same thing sometimes, and that the niacin flush. But heat is a response. Heat is an indicator of blood flow.
It's just great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes.
Great questions, Marilyn. And Michael down in Australia says, thank God we don't allow advertising for pharma drugs in Australia. And just a reminder, folks, those are actors. Let's go to Bill with the next question. Bill, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thanks, Ben. Regarding the caffeine, I don't drink coffee, but I wanted to ask interference of tannins in green or black tea. In other words, are we not able to absorb some of our vitamins? Like I mix it in with Tangy Tangerine.
Well, in other words, will tannins interfere with absorption of nutrients? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
There are, yes, tannins can bind to certain minerals, particularly iron, making it unavailable for absorption. Probably other minerals too. Iron is probably the most important ones. Vitamin C, by the way, for whoever asked, Marilyn, I think, asked about vitamin C and zinc and copper. Vitamin C actually increases the absorption of copper. So if you're having an iron issue and you're worried about iron getting enough iron, when you eat your iron-containing foods, and iron-containing foods are probably the best way to get your iron. Meat is the best way to get your iron. Meat iron is different from plant iron. Use vitamin C, which will increase iron absorption. Tannins can inhibit iron absorption.
But
possibly
other than that,
possibly other minerals. Phytates, you probably heard about phytates doing the same thing. Tannins are similar in that way to phytates. They might interfere with iron. Maybe other minerals. The one I know about is iron.
Okay, because I'm doing OsteoFX and the Tangy Tangerine in a mug of tea, correct? And then adding water.
I don't know if that's I don't know if I would do it that way. Who's asking that?
Bill.
This is Bill.
I don't know if I would do that, Bill. The tannins might interfere with some nutrient absorption. I don't know definitively. I know about iron, and I would
Okay.
assume if they interfere with iron absorption, they may interfere with other mineral absorption.
Well, we've stopped drinking cranberry juice and mixing
Because-
that in, so we're stepping ahead, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Great question, Bill. We haven't had that one yet. All right, let's go to AJ, and then we have one last question after AJ.
AJ,
Pharmacist Ben, how are you?
I am good. Good to see you again.
Great to see you, man. You're doing a good work for the people.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna ask one question. What would you say would be the YGY substitute for Ensure?
TMR and Ultimate EFA. TMR, BTT, and Ultimate EFA. That would be the closest I would do. I would get TMR, Ultimate, mix them all together. I don't know how well they taste. I don't know how well have you had TMR with BTT? I've never done that.
I've not done that, and I definitely would not put my EFAs in there.
No, you don't want to do EFAs in there, but you could take them, take them with it. I wouldn't say take them with it, but I haven't done TMR with anything else because I absolutely love the TMR. Stan, if you're listening, I don't think he's listening, but Stan Dennison and his wife Laura are awesome formulators, awesome people and awesome formulators. And then the BTT, I was going to say Michelle Wallach is doing some shake formulating herself. Have you had the birthday cake shake?
I have.
I have not.
And then there's a new one. Do you know about the new one? The mint julep one?
It's not available yet, but that's
not
the next.
available yet.
Is that the Kentucky Derby version?
I don't know if it's a Kentucky Derby version, but it's going to come out soon. I'm excited for that. So high protein, the protein drinks, your protein drinks, and then mix it with fat. What makes breast milk and formula so valuable is the combination of fats and protein. The protein makes the fats more absorbable. Protein's water soluble and fats are obviously fat soluble. And the protein and fats work together perfectly in the emulsion. So the protein enhances the absorption of the fats. Proteins in general are used by the body to transport fats. You probably heard the term lipoprotein, right? HDL, LDL. Lipoproteins are a convenient way for the body to transport fat. And so combining protein with fat can be a very effective way to improve the transport of fat through the body, improve utilization of fat. And that's how breast milk works, in addition to having a lot of other things in it. So in order to duplicate the breast milk, what manufacturers do is they'll mix protein and fat. The problem is the fat they use is nasty, rancid, GMO, awful fat. And that's what I was pointing at when we talked about fat last week on the box. Canola oil and safflower oil and corn oil. These are GMO fats. They're highly processed. They're very inflammatory. They're awful for a human being to ingest, let alone a baby or an old person, which are the people who ingest it. If you do your TMR shake with your Ultimate EFAs, you don't have that problem. You get the fat and you get the protein and all the other wonderful nutrients. Now, you're not going to duplicate breast milk. And I was just reading, by the way, I used to make a joke about breast milk. I used to say, because breast milk's the perfect food, and I used to say we should all have our own breast to drink from. I know.
Oh, this is a family show.
It's a little joke. It's just a joke. We're all adults.
Family show.
It's all adults. But I was just reading. How in the news how wealthy people are doing just that. They're getting breast milk to drink, and really it's the perfect food. So it's very difficult to knock off breast milk. If you have a baby or you're going to have a baby and you can't breastfeed, go to La Leche League and get some breast milk from somebody, because there's no way to duplicate it. Not only are you not going to duplicate it, you're going to make matters worse. You're going to set your baby up for a lifetime of immune problems and begin the triangle of disease. Fake formula, Ensure, whatever it is you're giving your baby, soy milk or Enfamil, whatever they call it, is a great way to start that triangle of disease going. Inflammatory fats, one of the first things inflammatory fats will affect, by the way, is the intestine. And leaky gut can be associated with the ingestion of nasty, fried, processed fats. So French fries and pizza can be a cause of, or at least can exacerbate, an inflammatory leaky gut condition. So to duplicate it, I would go TMR and Ultimate EFAs.
All right, fantastic. And one last question. is
Yes.
coming in about histamines.
Oh yeah,
and
one more thing. Fucoid Z. I would throw Fucoid Z in there too. Yes, into the blend. Go ahead.
Okay, so can rotten teeth, what does it say? Can rotten
Cause histamine?
teeth trigger or cause histamine?
Bacteria from not the rotten teeth themselves. Not the rotten teeth themselves, but the bacteria might produce histamine.
Cause a reaction. Can you get a reaction from having
histamine? Yes, histamine is made by bacteria. And by the way, we talked about the microbiome in the gut, but the mouth has a very important microbiome that's thrown off by the kind of foods we eat, as well as by just ordinary stress and by just chemicals that the body makes. We don't appreciate the oral microbiome as much as we should. And I predict in the future we will be talking much more about the oral microbiome, because now we know that the oral microbiome may be related to heart disease. And this is why people who have root canals have higher rates of heart issues and blood issues, is because of the oral microbiome. You got good and bad bacteria in the mouth, just like you do throughout in the respiratory tract and in the sinuses and in the intestine and in the vaginal and genital area.
All right. Well, hey, you are at a hard stop and we're over already. So thank you so much.
Thank you all. We'll see you next week. And thank you, Ruth Ellen. I appreciate you, and Rebecca and Phyllis and Marilyn and Albert and Sportus Nutritionosis, and of course, Dr. Wallach, and everybody out there in longevity land. God bless you all.
God bless you, pharmacist Ben Fuchs, everybody. So we are so honored and blessed to be able to have some amazing individuals. Pharmacist Ben mentioned Dr. Laura, who we have on Tuesdays a couple times a month. And it's just, folks, there are so much that we can do for ourselves, that we can do for ourselves when it comes to nutrition. And as he mentioned, we got to make sure that we're watching what we put in our mouth, what we're injecting into our bodies, what we have in our environments, because all of those things are going to be affecting our health, good or bad. So get back with the person that shared this program with you. Say, hey, I need to get a better program. Can you help me? Chances are they are a health coach, a certified holistic health coach, a practitioner of some sort. Our community contains some amazing people that have felt and know the difference and the benefits that nutrition offer, because we're not finding it in our food. And folks, because our bodies are designed to continually make cells, the better the raw ingredients that we put into our bodies, the better the outcome. Cells can't make healthy cells if they don't have the healthy ingredients needed to do so. That's one reason why we provide this program. This is one of the biggest reasons why I have decided to have this show in promoting the longevity products. I heard Dr. Wallach's message on the radio 9 years ago now. Almost 9 years ago now. And if I wouldn't have heard that message, I would probably be still continuing on that downward spiral of bad health. So please make sure that you share this program with somebody. Care enough about yourself and others to let them have the opportunity to make a decision based on information they're not getting from their doctor. My name is Becca Dukes. I could not do this program without my co-hosts. We have AJ, who is our director of marketing, who is just absolutely fantastic and has helped us get on so many different platforms. We want to know where you're listening in from. So if there's a way to leave a comment, please leave us a comment so that we know where you're hearing us from. Let us know what state, what country. If there's a way to subscribe and follow our channel, please do so. And most importantly, share this with somebody else. We also have Ruth Ellen Sanchez, who is my executive production manager, who helps to keep us all on tasks and helps to keep the lineup of guests in flowing. So thank you so much, Ruth Ellen, as she is also the one that's capturing the information and pushing it out onto the stream, that those of you who are watching the live stream or replay are seeing right now. We have Phyllis, who is one of the people who was instrumental, her and her husband, instrumental in getting Dr. Wallach on the radio in the beginning, which is how I heard about it. So I am very honored and blessed to have her on as part of our co-host team as well. Thank you so much, Phyllis. We have Marilyn, which if you are here in the live Zoom, you are seeing one of her talents, and that is the talent of being able to transcribe, where she can type faster than most people can think. And she's doing just a fabulous job. So thank you so much for that, Ruth, Marilyn, sorry. And folks, if you are here live with us, make sure that you have that chat open. Then if you see recommendations that have been offered that are fitting for you or someone you know, take a screenshot or take a picture of that and get it back to the person that shared this program with you. Now, if there's no one to thank, we have a call team standing by waiting to take your calls at 855-949-3377. Again, that's for people who are not currently taking longevity products and are not working with somebody or referred to this program by somebody else. We are a resource for an amazing community, and my goal is to maintain that integrity, that they can share this program with others, where they can get the information from one of our professionals that come onto the program with us, and then be able to make that decision to choose a better health journey. And we have, last but not least, we've got one more coach on the screen or on the thing, but I don't see him on the screen. We have Albert, who is joining us from South Africa, which is just proof that we are around the world and reaching people where they're at. So thank you so much, Albert. If people weren't being let into the room, they wouldn't hear this message live. So thank you, Albert. It's because of you that we are able to have people here live with us. And we also have Coach Rod, who's out on the different platforms watching for comments and helping to let people in as well and bringing those questions and comments to the show. So folks, if you've been looking to be part of something bigger than yourself, I'll get to you, AJ. Get back with the person that shared this program with you. Or if there's no one to thank, give us a call. We have a table that has many seats available, and we love to help people. And as we help others, they help others, and together we can make a healthier world. AJ.
Dr. Wallach's unmuted.
Oh, Doc.
Hello.
Oh, fantastic. Hi, Doc.
I just want to thank everybody. You all did a great job today, as usual. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And of course, this team from South Africa to New York to Michigan, to Washington, to Florida, to every state. And I don't know, I think we're on 81 countries now, and all these various programs. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And, you know, it's just going through the flip chart here because I got some presentations to do tonight. And in page 32 of the flip chart, page 32, it's got the same big picture. It's a big picture, okay, it's all in your head on page 6 of the normal skull and the skull with osteoporosis. And it tells a good story on the right-hand side about the osteoporosis of the skull. So the flip chart covers a lot of territory, and it's big. You know, it's one of those things that's it's a foot wide and a foot and a half long, and it has 76 pages in it and goes into all these diseases, and it has so many famous people towards the end. It's got a dozen famous people. We're talking about movie stars and singers and professional athletes who were dying. They were on death's door, and they came to us and we got them going with the longevity program, and they're here to tell the story, and they bring us wonderful things, just like Theo Ratliff.
Well, yep. So there's Theo, there's Andy Williams, there's Danny Glover. There is, what's your favorite singer, Doc?
I'm sorry?
Who's the gentleman that sings one of your favorite songs? Pat Boone.
Pat Boone, yeah.
Yep. And we even have the young Latin singer, Jesse Medelis in there. There's lots of information that is provided in that flip chart to help you share the story and the message with somebody else. It is only 9.5 by 12, Doc. That's what I designed it at. But you can find that on Dr. Wallach's website, or give him a call, not him a call, but give the Wellness Publications a call at 800-755-4656. Dr. Wallach, thank you so much for being on with us. We greatly appreciate you and all that you've done to provide this crusade that we are able to join you on and continue to fight the good fight.
Okay,
Folks,
well, thank you so much, Becca. We're family. Thank each and every one of you on the team. And in South Africa, all is fun, the best, Lacadere, by a donkey.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wallach.
Thank you.
And folks, thank you for taking this hour and 15 minutes out of your schedule to invest in information that's going to be able to help you and others for a better health journey. Again, my name is Becca Dukes. As the hostess of this program and the director of student services for the Institute of Holistic Health, we invite you to become a certified holistic health coach. You can go to coachwithdoc.com and find more information about the coaching program, and reach out to us. info@dailywithdoc.com to get some more information as well. Or again, you can give us a call at 855-949-3377. We will see you next week, Monday through Friday from 12 to 1 p.m. Pacific time at zoom.dailywithdoc.com. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Daily with Doc and Becca. This program is for educational purposes only. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences of the individual sharing their testimony. Results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have the founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health, Dr. Joel Wallach. Welcome to Daily with Doc and Becca. This program is for educational purposes only. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences of the individual sharing their testimony. Results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have the founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health.